Hey, it's the last episode of Horns Up in 2019. So please, everyone. Sigh of relief there. Yeah, that was supposed to be such a clickbaity opening, but it didn't actually work out that way. Now, last week, Peter and I brought you albums that we really liked in 2019. And yeah, you can log on to hornsuppod.com, catch that episode and tell us all about what you thought about those picks. This week, we're going to relive 2019 again, but we're doing so with the live music experience that we have experienced in 2019. Weird convoluted sentence. I'm actually rushing through the opening because we don't have a lot of time, and that's because we have one more person here with us. He is someone who's actually been to a lot of live gigs this year, something that Peter and I haven't been able to do a lot considering, life. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chuck.
Hi.
Horns Up #1 fan. But yeah, welcome to the show, Chuck, man. It's good to have you on.
Thank you. It's an honor, actually, to be on the show. And I say this very non-sarcastically, by the way. Every time I tell Peter this, he's like no, dude. I actually listen.
And that's because we generally don't think anybody apart from the two of us listen to the podcast. Maybe the artists themselves.
Well, as a podcaster myself, I'll tell you that that's actually it may not be that's not the case.
But yeah, man, let's dive straight in because we're talking about live gigs. Animesh and I, me being a parent now, catch as many gigs as I can.
Hey, I have 2 cats. Okay,
parent. But yeah, man, tell me about you, because not only did you attend gigs in India, but you attended gigs abroad also.
Yeah, we managed to go to Europe and saw. I mean, lots of buckets were ticked, bucket lists, whatever.
Okay, cool.
Managed to see a lot of.
All right. So approximately how many gigs have you seen this year? Okay. Approximately how many artists have you watched live this year? That's a better question.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's, right. Okay. That's a little unfair because there were 5 festivals in there too.
That's absolutely fine. Which means you would have racked up what?
I mean,
huge double-digit numbers.
Yeah, 200.
Easily over 200.
Easily. I mean, if you're counting, like, for example, Metallica, there are 4 guys, right? I'm assuming.
Okay. No, I meant as bands.
Yeah, I mean, around 200, I would. At least 100, I would think.
Wow.
Caught a little bit of.
With one of the festivals alone, you'd have 50
you'll have. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
So it makes perfect sense why we have you on Horns Up.
I think in India, there were about 25 gigs and 3 festivals. Control Alt Delete and both weekenders.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
Lovely. All right. So let's begin
Jump
this.
right into it.
2019. Best gig for you, best international artist you've seen.
Okay. I've split this answer into 3. One is the best gig overall for me was, again, a bit of an unorthodox choice, Trivium at Grasspop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, a little weird, I know, but okay, so I'm going to take one step back. To me, like, the live music is very different from recorded music purely because, like, a lot of things can happen, right? You go for an unknown band and just, like, everything is just turns right. The acoustics are great. Something funny happens. A screw up becomes, I've seen Zero do this a lot of times. Somebody screws up, Warren's string will break, and all the others just continue magically, and then he comes right back on cue. These things you don't see in the recordings, right? So yeah, Trivium for me was like that. Saw a great band called Borknagar, or however you pronounce it. Before that,
Borknagar is the only we clearly know you're Indian if you pronounce Borknagar as Borknagar. Yeah.
And then I was having such a good time, and one guy behind me saw me having a good time and passed me half his doob, which was great because I had to finish it because I didn't have a lighter and it was like mildly overcast and I didn't want to run around, pay 10 euros or whatever for a new fucking lighter. So I was like blazed out of my brains, and I went to main stage 2 where Trivium was supposed to play next because everybody was at main stage 1 watching Behemoth. Trivium came and they blew me away, man. Like, they were one of the first metal bands that I started listening to when I was still like graduating from Bon Jovi and Bryan Adams. And so this is cool. So like Light to Fly is one of my favorite songs. I mean, probably the first metal song I loved. So he started singing and he egged the crowd on, and that was a beautiful part. He said, "Oh, we've played a download before this and they were louder than you." So obviously people lost their shit, and the energy between band and audience feeding off each other, lots of crowd surfing. So he sang the verse and then he just like ran away on stage while the little instrumental bit was happening. I was like, "Fucker, get back, the chorus is coming." He stands right in front where there's another mic that he's placed. And I've never seen that happen at any gig, okay, where there are multiple mics for the band, and he sang the chorus of like Light to Fly in front of me. I'm like, fuck, dude, this is definitely going to make that year-end list when I'm called up on Horns Up to ask.
He was thinking of Horns Up even before
before Horns Up was a concept. Yeah. In India, best international band, I think a lot of people will have this as an answer. The Ocean.
That was a gig in January.
In January, yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
So
and Peter, I think that would be your gig of the year as
definitely.
well in India.
I mean,
superb German progressive metal band talking about the Cambrian explosion. And,
like that's a perfect like metalhead kind of band, like the nerdery band, because you're going into like archaeology and all those other
and great venue, right, above the Habitat. Like it's
the best light show I've seen at
above
the Habitat, man.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has kind of used that venue to its full potential the way the Ocean has. And I must add, for if you think Chuck and I are rambling on and oh my god, Germans and stuff, watch the documentary. Watch the documentary that they released, because it perfectly encapsulate the entire gig journey, the experience in India, the response that they got.
Yeah.
Here's a question to the both of you. Why do you think, or why do you so fondly recollect that Ocean gig? What was so magical about it?
So
you have 10 seconds each.
10 seconds each. Okay.
No expectations.
Yeah, low expectations for me, and
that was
incredible energy, man. Just massive energies. I mean, went out of that gig feeling like pumped. I could have like run a marathon after. Like, dude, that was like oral Red Bull.
Yeah, and it's just the music, the way it goes. Like, if you think, some people would call them post rock or whatever, but man, they really, it's a sound, it's everything.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be a shame if I can say one thing.
Yeah.
All right. So, you have Trivium, you have Ocean. You mentioned it was a list of three.
Oh, yeah.
What's the third one?
I thought it would be unfair to say just international bands. So, best Indian gig with an Indian band for me. Again, slightly controversial opinion. Koshish at Levi's Lounge.
Oh, wow.
First time I saw them live. I think
first time.
Exactly.
Wow.
First time I saw them live, Levi's Lounge. I love that place. I think they were just a very good example of what Hindi progressive rock could be. It wasn't like a band just trying to be Porcupine Tree with Hindi lyrics. I think these guys just did a damn good job. And
Porcupine Tree or Tool?
No,
my
Porcupine Tree.
I'm going to send this to Hamza.
No. I would say Porcupine. Yeah, I mean that drumming was great. Again, I haven't seen the band live, so if I had seen them, maybe it wouldn't have been so high up the list. But yeah, that is a best example for me. I'm not too much of an Indian metal band guy, unfortunately. So while I have tremendous respect for a lot of these guys, I haven't seen any of them. I did see them at NSN Weekender purely because I didn't want to lose my prime spot for Opeth. But yeah, I enjoyed them whenever when I could. But I haven't gone for a metal gig like Black Blood or Scarfest. Peter, what about yours? Like Indian?
Man, for me it would be Eviscerating India, and I'm not going to say which band was better, but
Eviscerating India is your, like, was it a
hang
festival
on.
or or a commentary on the current social situation in India?
Eviscerating India, which had both Godless and Gutslit on the lineup. I'm not going to say which band played a better set, but it was just something about that tour and both bands back to back. Now, typically, I'm not a huge fan of 5-band lineups, which 3 or 4 bands kind of sound the same. Then it just all sounds monotonous, and you're like, okay, what is he singing about? What was he singing about, kind of thing. But one thing cool also I feel about that tour of both bands is the camaraderie, because they ended up playing so many cities together. They worked on it, and I think both Gutslit and Godless are at their prime at the moment. Their next releases that they put out, hopefully Godless puts out an album, Abbas, if you're listening. But yeah, the next album also that Gutslit put out is really going to be good. And primarily because they've been touring so much, so they've been, honing their skills, but also everything they're experiencing all around. So yeah, man, that was a really good lineup.
Where was that?
Above the Habitat.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's my turn.
Yes.
Best Indian musical act that I saw this year, weirdly enough, is not a heavy metal act. That vote goes to Sutej Singh.
Oh, yeah.
Weirdly enough, to was at Above the Habitat.
Yeah. This was also part of a big lineup, right?
It was.
I think
Yeah,
it was Black Blood.
It was it was a Black Blood, weirdly hardcore edition, or weirdly mixture of genre edition, because you had you had Death by Fungi, you had there was some band from Rajasthan and Sutej, and Sutej was the odd one out on this bill. I had no exposure to Sutej at all. I didn't know that he was Katrina Kaif's favorite Indian musical artist, etc. Right?
What infamy.
What's up? Yeah. But yeah, none of that exposure. And so we were just wondering, why is there essentially a guitar rock instrumental band that's been programmed before, after a metal band and before a hardcore band? And oh my God, I've never seen an act like that in India after maybe, say, the most popular guitarist in India, which would be Warren.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And Sutej completely won me over that night. So much so that we, on that very night itself, we went up to Yaduvir, who's part of who essentially that's the label that he's on, Pinecone Records, met up with Sutej, etc. And on the very spot, got him to agree to come onto our podcast. Like, truly, he bowled us over that night and won us over completely, because, man, it was the best example of what live music can do to you, because he you were essentially a pawn and he was just
another interesting little thing.
You around.
A beautiful gig that was. And I remember when he came to Levi's Lounge last year, 2018, when his album The Emerging just launched. Again, great gig.
Excellent music.
And he uses a guitar which the brand is made in Solan in Himachal Pradesh, and they make some beautiful looking guitars.
Yeah. So in case you
best,
haven't heard that episode, go back to episode 26, listen to Sutej
I have
sing.
heard that.
Yeah. And he's such a humble guy.
Yeah.
And I believe he's currently recording an album, so more music to look forward to.
And he had a bunch of people on the record as well, right?
Yeah.
Who I forget.
A lot of people. I think European guests.
Yeah, Hacken's drummer, I think, played on.
He got that.
Yeah.
But let's take a turn for the other side. What was your most disappointing gig? I want you to go first, Animesh. Come on.
Wow. Okay. So you guys are really putting me on the spot, and here's maybe this is because of recency or proximity effect or whatever word you can use to describe that, but this happened at Scarfest, which was just the previous week, where you had a lineup of pure metal bands, and then you had one band, The Light Years Explode, which completely stood out because they don't have a metal sound at all. It just didn't fit the vibe that gig was trying to create, or that gig, or which that gig had, or you could feel it in the audience too. And it didn't help matters that, unfortunate things happened during the set. I think Saurabh's strings broke, etc., which just didn't. It just felt a little bit flat.
I felt the same way about Peng Shui before Opeth. I felt everything till then was, like so metal. These guys from Nepal, Underside. I mean, for me, that's my honorable mention of the year. Like, incredible gig they played, bowled everybody. And then Peng Shui were great, but they didn't fit that sort of vibe, right? Everybody was obviously looking forward to Opeth, and suddenly you have, weird combination of rap metal with electronic. I mean, maybe if they had opened for somebody, if they were opening up for somebody else, it would have, Bring Me the Horizon. If they were opening for it, it would probably fit. But just I don't know, it just killed that kind of vibe before Opeth played.
So, I see a commonality in what both you're saying. It's just not about the act itself.
Yeah.
Because maybe if you listen to them on CD or something like that.
Absolutely.
Or streaming.
And I think all of us have. So, Peng Shui wasn't my answer. For me, I think I've been lucky that all the gigs I went to had good music as such. Also, I think it's just age factor. I can't go for everything and experiment. So you have some sort of filter, right? For me, the gigs that were most disappointing were mostly because of the venue. And for me, that was Finch. Stables. Okay. When I went to see Reggae Rajas.
Balls, you went there to ride that mechanical bull.
There's a mechanical bull. I had no idea. And the other disappointing venue for me was, I don't think Verbena was a great venue for Tesseract.
Oh man.
I think I enjoyed the
beer more than anything else about the venue.
Yeah, but I don't know.
They made half an hour, 45-minute line up outside.
Yeah. And I wasn't a fan of the old antisocial in Toady Mills. I thought that was a very weird venue which couldn't decide whether it was a music venue or a pub.
And imagine watching an act like Pliny there.
Yeah, Pliny, exactly. For me, Pliny was like, purely because of the venue. As for me, that was it. The one gig that I went for where the music was great, but I realized, this is totally not my kind of music, and I left, was Jojo Mayer. Again, huge name. I went there thinking, okay, drummer, great. The last time I paid a lot of money to see an international drummer was Marco Miniman, and that turned out great. Over here, I was like, okay, when does stuff actually start? and then when I was walking out, I met Royson, and I didn't know if it was just me, so I just said, this isn't working for me. He said, acoustics are off. Like, no, I don't like. Then he looked at me like, you don't like the music? Okay, then you should leave, which I did. So yeah,
but. My pick, and this shouldn't come as any surprise to Animesh because we discussed this to death afterwards. And I feel really bad saying it because I paid quite a bit of money also for it, was the Chris Adler experience.
Oh.
I thought we were picking purely Indian projects. Damn.
To be fair, that band was 80% Indian.
And I don't know, man. I was excited when it was announced, because you had that whole lineup, and then you had people like Abbas from Godless who ended up pulling out from it and all, and then Sunny from ex-Band of Moth and now Undying Ink. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, for those of you who've seen Band of Moth back in the day, they did cover Lamb of God, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, that was the time I saw. I mean, by then I'd already been to the new Antisocial, so I was like, okay, it'll be a great venue to catch a metal gig. But it felt sterile.
Yeah.
I think it felt sterile purely because they weren't, like, Bombay's metal scene didn't show up for the gig.
I agree, right? I was quite,
I think
I was disappointed actually.
That was primarily the reason for most of our long faces, because, come on, who else? And this is why I'm saying hats off to Zignima and to Gutslit, specifically Kadadi and Gurdeep for pulling Scarfest off and getting more than 300 people to pay money to come to Antisocial to watch Indian bands. Chris Adler couldn't do what these guys did.
No, the surprising thing is I saw Adler play with Nitro in 2018, 17 or 18, when Michelangelo Battio and that had more people than this gig, and that was more expensive than this, which I thought was pretty weird.
For me, at least, those factors were there, but like you'd think, okay, chalo, I'm a casual Lamb of God fan. I'm not even a huge Lamb of God fan. But it just seemed very odd.
Yeah.
And
I think he felt it too. I think I could see him upstairs when he was like eating or something. And I have a feeling like he also felt like, okay, where is everybody? I mean.
Yeah, it was just something off about that day. And unfortunately, like, this is what I feel happened the same thing with The Ocean. With The Ocean, I went with no expectations. I was like, oh my God. So I went with expectations. So suddenly I was like, oh boy.
Okay, so since we are on expectations, next question for all three of us. Which act in this year lived up to your expectations or actually surpassed it?
I think everybody in my top 10 surpassed expectations, because I think that's kind of like how I picked, like for example, Metallica is not in my top 10 even though I saw them for the first time. I didn't manage to catch them at both gigs in Bombay. Let's not get that.
Oh my God.
We don't do that on the show. Yeah. No, man. Metallica, I expected 9 and I got 9. So that way I can't say it exceeded expectation. And because I've seen like close to 150 bands, you can say that like pretty much 90% of them met expectations. The ones that exceeded... the ones that exceeded expectations... here's another very interesting band. At Levi's Lounge there was a Swiss post jazz band called the Great Harry Hillman.
I remember you telling me about this.
Obviously never heard of these guys before. I was like, again, Levi's Lounge, great venue, free. So let's just go and see what happens, right? It's not like I'm a big jazz fan or anything, but I'll happily watch a Louis Banks and Kush Upadhyay play, right? And I went over and I was blown away, man. Like, it wasn't so much about the virtuosity. They were just great performers. And the drummer in particular, he would put like little beads on the floor and then he'd boom, floor as in the floor tom, and he'd bang it and he'd get those little sounds. He'd put those mini cymbals that Gavin Harrison plays on the snare, and then he'd do stuff with that. He'd use the physical space around him. He had a tambourine which he kept whacking on that pillar above the drummer. So he was just a joy to watch. There are some gigs that you just have a huge grin on your face. This was one of those gigs. So went in with 0.5 expectation, and there was free beer at the gig, which that's never a bad thing. So for me, that was I'd say that exceeded by a huge mile.
Okay, all right. I'll stick with the same venue actually. Yes, the gig that completely met and surpassed expectations for me this year happened at Levi's Lounge. I'm talking about Devin Townsend. Oh my God, it was a dream come true. Having watched Devin Townsend earlier with the Devin Townsend project in London when they did the entirety of Ocean Machine at Royal Albert Hall, that was an experience because obviously you have the entire stage show, etc., and that actual wall of sound. I never thought in 2019 Devin Townsend will be in fucking Bombay playing within 5 minutes from one of the places I work at, definitely, but within an arm's reach in front of me. Right, the man spat on me, right, because he was singing, and there was mucus or spit that came out from his face, and it landed on my knee. Right, you don't get more intimate than that.
Did you take a shower after that? Yes or no?
Considering that gig was in February, I have had to take showers.
You Google CRISPR after this, didn't you, to see if you can make your own desi version?
Oh no, man! But completely, it was a great gig. That gig truly lived up to expectations. Because it was as Devin Townsend-y as you would expect from a Devin Townsend gig. And I'm still blown by what he did to Love, that acoustic version of Love, which sounded heavier than the Strapping Young Lad version. Oh my God. And of course, just the fantastic meet and greet stroke. This is not actually a gig. This is just catching up with old friends kind of vibe. Plus that sound. Yeah. It sounded, I've never heard of an acoustic gig sounding this good.
Yeah.
It ticked off all the right boxes completely. Perfect venue, perfect location, perfect sound. And of course, oh my God, I hugged him at the end, and I literally during the meet and greet, the small meet and greet that he did with everyone who was present at the gig, I asked him very sheepishly and very nervously, Devin, can I just hug you? And he let me, and that's magic.
See, metalheads have feelings too. and he did. It was almost like an improv gig, right? I don't think he had a set list. He just spoke about life and then segued into a song, which was so beautiful.
It was like as if he was sitting in one of our bedrooms and playing. And that was also compounded by the fact that all the 40 other people who managed to get tickets, because I'm sure all of us bought tickets early, you knew each person, and you knew that you actually kind of spoken about Devin, or you knew. So that was cool. Love, another
one of my favorite moments from the gig was, so I actually had a front row seat because I bought it early, and one of my friends who's a huge Devin Townsend fan got just a little bit late, so he had to get the row behind me. So I told him, listen, you're a bigger fan than I am, so just swap seats, right? And I had right in front. He said, no, you bought, so you should but you will get more out of this, right? And I'm still, it's not like I'm going away. And he said, no, he got cold feet. And at the last minute, he said, okay, cool, I'll come. And then we swapped. It's a good idea because when he played Deadhead, he actually came and sat next to him, put his arm over him and was singing. So, he owes me.
That was that dude. I was so fucking jealous at that point. I was like, no, you fucking bastard. I'm literally in the seat next to you. There's a seat in the middle of us, and you chose to put your hand on fucking that guy's head.
Somebody didn't show up.
But I got a pick.
Yeah.
I got a pick. Nice. Not just a picture, but I got a pick too.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, which I just managed to steal because he dropped it on the floor.
Weirdest. Okay. Sorry.
Peter, you still have to answer this question.
The gig that surpassed expectations for me, and Animesh is going to have a big smile once I say this answer. Immolation at Fandom. We couldn't do this episode without mentioning it. We actually spoke so much about it when we were in Bangalore. But come on, we flew down to Bangalore, watched them. What a set. I mean, dude, 3 decades into metal, into death metal, and the kind of music that they play. I mean, I know you, Chuck, you put out in the start that you don't listen to that kind of metal. But even a casual listener watching this band will become a fan.
Oh, sure.
Just the kind of precision. We bloody watched them sound check right in front of us.
Yeah, it was supremely weird because they were playing on this tight as fuck schedule, yeah, which essentially meant they came in the night before and they were going to leave the very night of the gig, right? Which means you don't have a lot of time left for sound check, etc. They sound checked at the venue before their set, so they spent maybe 45 minutes. It was a 45-minute cool down after watching a lot of Bangalore-based bands, Bangalore and other like city Chennai-based bands, and I think in that tune-up kind of time, the crowd's energy dropped. But then when Vigna started playing, holy fuck, that gig was the best metal gig I've seen this year.
Wow.
Because truly, Immolation, they surpassed expectations. And what especially helped was the fact that we were in Bangalore and that city outright remains metal city of India. Oh my god, that was
Yeah, I can see both of these guys are absolutely gushing.
Yeah. We are
We were gushing the night after when we recorded the other episode, the Metallica episode in Bangalore. But special mention to this, and this animation is gonna be a little embarrassed when I say, but special mention to the Against the Tide gig that happened again at No Surprise Above the Appetite. I wish you could see Animesh's face right now because his band played. And it was like a coming of sorts for Bombay hardcore, whatever you want to call it. There you had Riot Peddlers, you had Light Years Explode, you had Pacifist. Who else was there, man? My apologies to the other bands there, but I can remember these 3. But it was such a fun lineup. And just to kind of see, even though you had like hardcore bands performing, but just to see the variety that they kind of brought in. So that was really cool for me. And they did a lot of hype about it. Pacifist released their EP at that. I was watching Riot Peddlers after a while. So that was fun.
Checks in the mail, it'll arrive next week.
That's all for this episode's quota of the Riot Peddlers.
Okay, here at this point, I need to mention that I'm not the biggest fan of the Riot Peddlers. Sorry, I've seen you guys.
You don't have to be.
This was at one of the old Control release, which happened at Sitara, I think.
Oh yeah,
a long time back.
I remember your comment. Yeah. Your checks in the mail too.
But this is a CHECK, like how you know. I wanted to ask you.
Dead horse's head on your bed.
Okay, so we'll quickly segue away from that. Wanted to ask. So I'm going to put out mention a bunch of venues that I've been to this year. You guys tell me whether you've been there or not.
All right, sure.
Above the Habitat.
Yes,
I think everybody's been there.
Of course.
Yeah. Verbena.
I don't even know where this is.
Where the Tesseract gig happened.
Where the Tesseract gig
happened. That's the gig which I didn't make.
It's a random venue.
I bought a ticket for it and it didn't end up going, and I think it was good that I didn't end up going.
Oh, well,
debatable.
I mean, a fan of Tesseract would watch them at Car Subway if it came to that.
Dude, fuck it. People who have heard the Tesseract episode that we did with James Monty know of my story with Tesseract, so I'm not going to say anything.
Fair enough. Okay.
Larger than that.
The social inside Kamala Mills, that weird amalgamation of all the,
You're talking about the Flea Bazaar Cafe.
Flea Bazaar Cafe, yeah.
Thankfully, I've never been
there.
Yeah,
terrible venue for a gig.
I've been there once. I think it was in May because I went there to eat, actually, to pick up dinner. And there was a band which was playing and No, I don't think it was the other people. It was some generic post-rock band. Okay. Could be as we keep searching. Okay. I don't really remember.
Okay, but not a great venue for... I don't miss it at all.
I think it could be a decent venue. They have a dedicated space.
Yeah, but there are too many places to eat around it. Again, one of those places that can't decide whether it's It feels like a venue in the middle of a food court.
You know,
really.
those kind of venues do serve a purpose, and hats off to, I don't know if this is included in your list, and like forgive me if I'm like preempting you on this. Have you guys been to the Finch?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Finch is a good venue.
Whom did you see at the Finch? Rainburn.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been to the Finch?
No, I haven't been there.
Okay, I was at Finch just a couple of weeks back. Weirdly enough, listening to sitar metal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Again, that venue is fantastic.
Great
it
sound,
gives
right?
it gives you a great sound. I think they're programming really good stuff. Obviously, it's not going to appeal to metal standards because at the end of the day, it's a place which needs to fill tables rather than just, getting people to listen to metal music. But surprisingly, good venue where we should be seeing a lot more gigs at, and located in Andheri East.
Interestingly enough, Finch has a very nice theme song. I know it's not it's damn nice. A damn nice jazz song which they shot, like nice high production.
I think the Finch also gave me one of the best Indian Jugadu highlights that I've seen in terms of event organization this year, which is they've attached a PD camera to where generally a projector is, and they actually live stream the gig to TV screens within the venue itself. So it doesn't matter if you're actually eating away from the stage, you can still watch the gig because the sound is that good and you're getting a complete, proper, neutral view of the stage. So Finch, props to you for that.
Cool. Antisocial, the old one, Toady Mills.
The Toady Mills Antisocial,
Pliny
which
era.
was the social.
Pliny era,
It wasn't antisocial back then. It was social.
Sure.
Toady Mills. We've been to the old and the new.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah. And the new one.
We didn't play this year. We played social last year.
Levi's Lounge, I'm guessing everybody's been there. Quarter?
No, I've never been to the Quarter.
Oh, Quarter's a nice venue.
I haven't been able to afford to enter the Quarter.
I think I've gone just
Why?
twice.
Is it expensive?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's one of those, it's next to the Royal
Is it
Opera House,
hoity-toity?
right? A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's a jazz gig right in the middle of South Bombay.
They basically try to be not just jazz by the bay.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, Hard Rock Cafe, Andheri. I've been there for one gig. It was a nice cover gig, Floyd and Straits. First time I've been there, it was a nice venue.
I've been to Hard Rock Cafe, again, never watched a band there because who the fuck will go to Andheri on a Thursday night to watch a band at Hard Rock Cafe?
Me, because I stay in Goregaon, about 2 kilometers away. Okay, Richardson and Crudas. Still one of the most underrated venues in this country.
Of course. I mean,
this year? No. I saw Thaikudum Bridge and Agam over there because
that's
it was
the
an
gig
Onam
which we
thing.
wanted to come to, but then we both didn't end up going to it.
Okay.
Or did you end up going to it?
I didn't end up going.
Stables?
No, why? There's a mechanical bull there. That's the only thing I know about stables.
DY Patil Stadium?
Holy fuck. Okay, I think this is.
I
think. Okay, so I know where you're getting to with this. Unless you're talking about Justin Bieber or Katy Perry.
Dear God.
Dua Lipa?
No.
Okay, so you're talking about the most hyped concert in the country this year, which was the U2 gig. Yeah. Which section were you in?
The cheapest possible seats because I'm not a huge fan. I just wanted to go there too again. Although I did get a huge like moment seeing just Noel Gallagher, and I just thought it was criminal just seeing him play rhythm guitar for 2 songs. They're like the fucking finest pop songwriter of the 90s, and you're relegating him to playing rhythm.
So let me butt into this conversation and say I was watching this via social media.
Nice.
And when I saw your post, I was like, how could I miss this gig? But then I was not in the country, so that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I paid good hard-earned money to be in that main general attendance. No, I wasn't in the pit. I wasn't in the red zone because, again, I'm not that huge a fan of U2, but I absolutely respect the shit out of the Joshua Tree because it's one of those albums which still is relevant in today's age, whether you look at it in terms of songwriting, whether you look at it in terms of production. It sounds as fresh. And I'm like fucking blown over. Beautiful album. So I wanted to see it. Hats off to the production. The production was top fucking notch. Beautiful. I finally understand why people really have this fanboyism over U2.
Yeah.
Because the band is tight as fuck.
Yeah.
Of course. The entire show was so well produced and everybody was on, like it felt like a show, everything was well rehearsed, people knew their cues, etc. Beautiful. Bono, not my favorite singer ever, but damn, that guy has charisma. Right? But the entire gig just felt so flat. there's literally, apart from checking off the fact that we've seen U2 in my backyard, and that's because I live in Navi Mumbai, I live in Nerul for that matter. Apart from that, like that to me was the biggest thrill factor of the gig. Otherwise, the gig just felt flat. And I don't know if it's because maybe the crowd that was in attendance was largely made up of older people. So maybe it's that kind of an energy or that kind of an infectious vibe which, like, the youth do bring in, and it didn't exist here. Maybe it was that, or maybe it's to do with the fact of what was happening around the country that, you know, kept playing on your mind, and especially when Bono kept on mentioning it, and you kept on you just felt out of place, right? So maybe it was that, but I don't know. That's my perception of it. What did you make of the gig since you were there?
So again, I come in with almost like I have hardly, to be honest, I've hardly heard that many U2 songs apart from.
Same here. I've heard the entirety of Joshua Tree. I've heard bits and pieces of other albums.
So I enjoyed the production. I thought it was a decent gig. I mean, if I were to rank it,
it wasn't a bad gig.
It wasn't a bad gig, but at the end of it, I felt like,
That's
it. It was pure. It was a pure bucket list thing. If they came down again, I probably wouldn't.
Same here.
Go to see them.
I probably wouldn't go.
Yeah. But that being said, I know there were guys who were huge fans, and
like I know of people who went when the Singapore gig was announced, they've gone to Singapore, and then it was much later that the India gig was announced, and everybody was just kicking themselves in the feet. But then most people who went to Singapore, at least from the people who I know who went to Singapore from India, ended up coming for the India gig too, because oh my god, you're getting to see U2 in my backyard.
My last question for you guys: what's the best and weirdest opening act you've seen? When I say weirdest, I don't mean from a musical point of view. It just felt like out of place opening for that. So I'll start with mine to give context. Both of mine are international examples. Ghost opened for Metallica. Fabulous. Set the tone.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
How did it work?
Work as
in a band like Ghost opening for Metallica. Ghost arguably can headline and should be headlining their own gigs at the moment. As an opening band, how did it work? Did it set you up for Metallica? Or
absolutely. Actually, there were two bands. There was a Norwegian band called Bokassa. Again, nice party. Just imagine Blink 182 with good songwriting. You know? Or no, not even Blink 182. Busted, you remember?
Yeah.
Just imagine Busted with good lyrics. So they set up nice. They were nice, punkish types. And Ghost, they actually did a very, very nice.
I've been wanting to. Like, Ghost is one of the bands that I really want to watch live because they'll be a fantastic show.
And I think they set it up very nicely for Metallica.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Because the only time I've seen Metallica, they started on their own. There was no opening act. And to be very honest with you, I don't think a band like Metallica needs an opening act.
Sure.
I mean, when you're going to watch a Metallica gig, you really don't want to see opening bands.
Yeah, but the thing also, this is in Europe. Like, they came on stage and they said, we've lost track of the number of times we played in Amsterdam. I was like, sir, I know the number of times we played in India. We could correct that. But anyway, for me, I'll just complete my own this thing. The weirdest opening act for me was I went to Luxembourg and I was watching Dream Theater over there. There are a number of people who could open for Dream Theater. There were a number of guys who could open for Dream Theater. Andy McKee opened.
What?
Andy McKee, the acoustic guitarist. Like,
wait,
I love that genre. Huh?
He's still around.
He's still around. And I love Andy McKee. I love that entire genre, Don Ross, Andy McKee and all those guys. But that felt like extremely weird because before them, there were two local, 80s speed metal type guys. And from there to go down to Andy McKee, down in terms of musical, just the tempo. And then he came and said, I'm a huge Dream Theater fan. It was amazing for me to open. Like, okay, just because you're a fan. But cool. I mean, that was progressive in that sense. But I enjoyed it. And
but wait, was he part of that tour? Or
he was part of the tour. Yeah. He was part of the entire European tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird, but I enjoyed it. I think everybody around was also like, whatever, let's enjoy this for what it is. It didn't set it up nicely, but DT is DT at the end of the day. So so that was mine.
I'm drawing a blank. I think I haven't attended that many gigs because I think most of the gigs I've attended here don't really have, like Tesseract. Oh yeah, wait. Who played? Astros not were a good opening for the Ocean now that I think about it.
Yeah.
And considering how many gigs Astros not have played. So, Abhijit, if you're listening, I'm going to send this to you. But play more gigs next year, man. Come on. And release that goddamn album.
Okay. I'm going to cheat over here because I really don't know if this is opening band because it's part of a multi-band lineup. So you really don't know if... So you would consider the first band to be the opening band of the night. And going by that logic, again, this may be due to recency effect, but Scarf has just happened and Pacifist kickstarted the show. Full props to Pacifist for essentially bringing that energy back to the Bombay rock scene that it had been sorely missing for a long period of time. The Riot Peddlers, of course, as Peter mentioned, have played with them earlier, so I know what's it like to gig with them. They are a riot, and at that particular gig, which was that Against the Tide gig, I likened them to an old PDV in their heyday, energy-wise, right? That's how good they were. Then we played with them again at this small, dinky little basketball court in Malad.
In Malad?
Yeah, of all places, which was called Slam Dunk. Again, beautiful gig, DIY, fully DIY, and they owned the setup there.
Nice.
Now, this is a biggish venue, right? The Antisocial is a biggish venue, the new Antisocial. And the gig itself had a lot of problems. So it started maybe, I think, an hour and a half late. And everybody was like, of course, you're tired because you're waiting for that long. But within, say, a couple of songs, oh my God, nice. Fantastic vibe, fantastic energy. Can't wait to hear the new EP because they've got that one song on it, which is called Resolve, I think. They debuted at this gig, I think. I could be wrong, but that to me was the song of the night at Scarfest. And I'm genuinely looking forward to that EP and to potentially gig with them too in 2020.
I think this is a great way to segue into our next episode.
Okay. So let's wind this. Let's wind this down.
Yeah. So I one last thing to ask you, which is looking forward, really.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my line of questioning too. What's your question?
That's exactly. So my question is, who do you want to see next year, 2020? Given the what we've seen this year, we've seen the trend of type of bands that are coming down.
Honestly, I would, and this is purely bucket list, I want to see Kiss.
Oh man, they were so good at Grass Pop, man.
I want to see Kiss. Damn you for having caught them.
Sorry.
They are apparently doing their final farewell in 2020.
.pptx.
Apparently, hopefully they learn something from Motley Crue. I could very well be wrong. They could be they could have. I know. No. That's what I'm getting at. Maybe they should learn from Motley Crue and say, "Fuck this, we'll come back and play." Or knowing Kiss, they would be the ones to tell Motley Crue saying, "Hey, you know what? There is demand for it. Milk the shit out of it." Slayer is one thing that I'm actually skeptical about. I actually don't know if they will reunite. They won't reunite this quickly, at least. Maybe it'll be 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line. If there's one band that I would want to watch in 2020, and purely buying into the speculation that it may be their last year ever performing, it would be, weirdly enough, Kiss, because I truly believe that kind of a stage show has to be experienced by each and every person who is just a fan of music in general,
absolutely.
or live music in general.
Yeah.
What about Peter?
So this is only because you're asking me this now, I can list 100 bands on the top of my head, from the most indie to I don't know, whatever. But the band that I suddenly thought of, and while you were answering, I want to see Kveltark, and just because they're releasing an album next year, and also an image that always sticks in my head when you talk about them and playing live is a video, and I'll probably link it in the show notes, but for those of you who know the band and have seen the video of them playing in Singapore, is the guy literally gets out of the bar while still singing, and unfortunately they don't have the same singer, but man, that kind of rowdy, punk meets black metal kind of thing, that would be such a treat to watch. And now especially that you have a place like Antisocial back again, metal gigs, oh boy, I would do anything to watch them there.
NH7, you guys should get Velartak. I think that would be a good production. It would be a good, obscure yet mainstream band. And I think that'll draw people.
So, okay, my answer for this is an Australian progressive metal band called Neo Oblivisaris.
Ooh,
they
nice
are.
pick.
I think they would be.
Nice
I think
pick.
they would do really well at a place. Like their early Opeth with a violin is what I think they are. I think they would do really, really well in India. But I'm going to stick my neck out, and I'm going to say that Iron Maiden is going to play in India next year.
I have a very weird feeling, and I completely agree with you. And let me give you my theory on this also. It's something that
I also
Peter
have
and
theory.
I've already discussed. They're playing Australia,
and then Japan after
and then
that,
Japan, and there's a weird
gap
4
in
to
between,
6 day gap,
which has a Sunday,
and
then they're playing Abu Dhabi after that. So you need to fly by India.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm going to say, and this has happened before, right? Like U2's announced India after, and Dream Theater. More importantly, they announced India way after the rest of their Asia tour.
The plus point for Iron Maiden is they've played India, so they know the kind of things to expect and to look out for and what to avoid.
Yeah. May 24th, Iron Maiden at MMRDA grounds. You heard it first on Horns Up.
Fuck you, not MMRDA grounds in my backyard, DY Patil Stadium.
Fair enough.
No matter where they play, Steve Harris, call us. We want you on the podcast.
Steve Harris, Bruce Dickinson, Nico McBrain, Rod Smallwood for all that matters, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Yannick Gers. If any of you are listening to
Paul Diano for that matter.
No, I don't want to talk to him. Okay, no, fuck it. I do want to talk to Paul Diano. I even want to talk to Blaze Bailey.
Blaze,
why
man.
not? I really like Blaze. I really like...
Como Estes Amigos is their most underrated song of all time, but I think
Virus. No, that entire The X Factor and Virtual 11, one of the most underrated Maiden albums. And as is tradition, the last episode of Horns Up has devolved into Iron Maiden fanboyism.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yes, because it is Iron Maiden and it is our podcast. So what the fuck are you guys going to do about it except to listen to us bickering and fanboying over Iron Maiden? On that note, Chuck, thank you for sparing some time. You're actually going to go and watch
my
Black
last
Sabbath
gig
Blues.
of the year. I was just thinking, on that note, you guys always end your podcast with that, and I always wanted to say, since it's a metal podcast, that note is most likely to be E. So
An open E which is chugged.
All right, guys. So yes, I'm going to go to a gig after this, probably the last gig of the year.
Okay.
So yeah.
Plug your social media if you want to plug your social media.
I am Chuck_Gopal on Twitter, Chuck of all trades on Instagram, and something on LinkedIn, I guess.
Don't search for something on LinkedIn. Like you can search his name.
Deepak Gopalakrishnan is what the income tax office knows me by. Yeah, that's me.
All right. And of course, we are at hornsuppod.com. So I know you've been wanting to do this.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Horns up.